right. Hey, welcome, Tim.
Thank you.
I got Tim Munn here. This is the Rusty Bucket Saloon. That's what we named it. We're going to sit down with a lot of different, we're in the race car community, so it'll be a lot of different drivers, track owner, probably the track manager if I can get him, maybe some of my adversaries that I don't like very well. If I can get her here, I'll do that. And really, I just want to sit down and record some of the old timers first, because they're just solid gold to me. Whenever I can get somebody to talk to me that's got a lot more gray hairs than me, I just shut the F up and listen. So I wanted to do it in this format. This is the series that we're doing is called Whatever You're Having. Is that true? Is that what I said? And so Tim Munn wants course banquet beer, so we've already had a couple to make sure we weren't too nervous, although I'm super nervous. And we're just going to get right into it. So
well, I'm only here for the beer. I know there's some racers that are only go to the racetrack to go race and drink beer. They tell you, I'm only here for the beer. Michael Hartman is not there for the beer. He's there to win races. I can tell you that.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. It's probably the nicest thing you ever said to me. I've known you, what, 2 years now?
Well,
or so?
I'm the kind of guy that doesn't pass out very many compliments.
Yeah, you can look at me. You don't have to look at them. It's all good.
And when I do, you better believe it's a compliment.
Oh, I remember just walking up on you that day when Lisa and I were taking that hood off the car and had nobody. And I was like dumbfounded because I'd never really I'd kind of polished Justin Allen and those guys' race car, just trying to be a part of something. But that was it. So when the car started mishandling, that it was just stuck in first gear, and you walked up with Casey Minks, man, it was like somebody fell down from the sky, and I was like, holy shit, did we pray about this today, babe? This is crazy. This always happens for us. Lisa and I were pulling off like a 45-pound hood when everybody else had tinfoil hoods, and looking under there, and you're like, what's the problem, son?
No, that's not what I said.
What'd you say?
I said, how's it going?
Oh, yeah, I think you knew how it was going. After
and
hearing
what
me
did
rap
Michael
the
tell
pill.
me? Not so good. And I said, oh, yeah, what's wrong? You know, because I guess that's my introductory line most of the time. How's it going?
Yeah.
You know, not so good was the response. I thought, wow, not so good. And I looked at you, and I looked at your car, and I thought, wow, this is a really pretty cool-looking car. And clean-cut haircut and B-52 on the side. I thought, man, this guy's got to be in the Air Force at Holloman Air Force Base.
Close. Had been.
Yeah,
had been
right.
there. 93, 94.
And it's always a disaster when you, maybe not, I could be wrong about that, being a disaster when you're in the military and trying to race a car at the same time.
Oh, man.
Just somehow doesn't work out.
Well, I was enlisted. I would have never been able to afford to race
right.
cars.
That's what I'm saying.
I could barely afford a $3,000.
I've seen some people over the years that are in the service and travel around the country and bring their race car with them.
Yeah.
And never do any good.
I tried to race dirt bikes, and it was like $75 a month to buy this $3,000 RM 125 in 93. I gave her hell. 3 weeks after I stepped on a dirt bike, I went out and raced in El Paso and got second. And I thought it was for the win when I was coming around somebody because I was chasing him down. It turned out the other guy was a novice, and he messed up and went with the beginners, and he had us by a half a lap. But I reeled this guy in the whole time and passed him in the last turn, and I was hooked ever since on racing.
Never got into dirt bikes too much because it seems like every place they raced them was way too hot when the sun was shining.
Yeah. But let's get back to that first story that we were telling, because we'll get all over the place. So you fly down from the sky, you and Casey Minks, boom, fly down from the sky, and you're telling me, you said, are you a mechanic? And I said, no, sir. You remember that? Is that true?
I do remember that.
And then you said,
that's all right, you don't have to be.
Yeah, you said, you want me to tell you how to fix it? And I said, I just said I'm not a mechanic. And you said, I got my wife's car to work on over here. Bring this thing off the side of the transmission. And you said, anybody can do it. Pull this thing, turn it this way, bring it over to me, and I'll tell you how to fix it. And then you go.
Well, and so we got the governor out of the transmission. I remember the problem was your car was supposed to race in second gear, and it only would race in first gear.
Yeah.
Couldn't go very fast
Hitting
in
the
first
pill
gear.
coming onto the track.
And so we got the governor out, and I said, all you got to do is get some vacuum hose or something to shove down. We don't have any vacuum hose. I said, well, get something stuffed down in there. And I forget what you told me Lisa came up with.
Sharpie caps.
Sharpie caps or
Yeah.
something like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was a Labor Day weekend. It was a 2-day show. And Jennifer hadn't run her car in a year or so, 2 years. First time at Vado Speedway Park she ran that car. And I don't remember where she finished, but I think you finished like somewhere between 3rd and 5th that night.
Third.
That's
yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's amazing. You know?
Pretty good for first time getting race gear.
You know, and then I remember after the races where you came over to the car where we were loading up on the trailer and said, just want to tell you how much I appreciate the help you gave me tonight. And I thought, wow, I think that's about the first time at the racetrack I've ever helped anybody out. And they came over and actually thanked me. I mean, I thought that was pretty gracious. I never expected it. Most people, you know, call you up and want some technical advice, and you tell them what you think is wrong, or maybe you know the solution to the problem as to what they need to fix. And you can always tell when whatever you told them fixed the problem, because they don't never come around or call back again.
Yeah.
If they still got the problem, they'll call you for more information.
Yeah. You know what's worse than that?
I can't imagine.
Giving everybody the answers to the test, because I'm like, come, my truck's on the lift. You can look at every spring, you can look at every shock. I don't care. And you know how many people have come over and looked at it?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, telling you how you're this and you're that. Anyways, but you know what you call that? When you give advice and people don't take it? An asshole. They ask a question and then they just go freaking like a-holes, just go away. And so whenever... The complicated part for me is that I think so much of you. And then when we first got together, you told me right away, okay, suspension, all that stuff's not my jam, really. I'm the mechanical guru. I'll be the car chief. Kind of. I don't think you've ever even called yourself that. I called you that. But I'll help you keep it together so you can turn some laps. And then the first year I had Martin Robinson helping me, and that guy says that, the other. And I'm like, ooh, I don't want to be an asshole at all. If I ask Martin Robinson what he wants me to do, I'm putting that weight right there. And we're not talking about it. I asked him a question. He told me now it's Don, right? Don Davis is telling me, and it's like you get a couple of old timers together, and they want he's wrong, and nobody else has done that about you, but you do that. You're like and I'm like, no, Tim, I'm not that guy, man. We're gonna follow what they tell us, and then see what we do. And we've always had pretty good luck, but that's not a knock on you. I just think as we get older, we're like, that guy, this, that, and the other. And so I'm like, I'm not. I'm never going to be an asshole. If I ask somebody for their help, I'm going to try what they tell me. If I go backwards, if I started the season 5th without them and I end up 10th, 11th, 12th place, well, I got the wrong guy. I got to ask somebody that knows a little bit more. And I never want to ask 2 guys. I want to try your way. And then I want to try on suspension and handling. I want to try Martin Robinson's way. And I think that's... maybe just people get all spun in circles because they listen to 4 really good people telling them what to do. And I think it's critical that the youngsters find one guy that they like and try their way and see what happens.
Well, I remember when your first season was over, the 4 or 5 races that you raced, and the thing I was impressed upon is that you started immediately getting ready for the next season. Most people wait till the last minute, and I think I told you a couple things over the telephone or text messages back and forth, and I finally decided, hey, I think I finally told you, you know what, I think I better just come over there on Sunday and take a look myself, and we'll straighten out a few things on the car.
And what did I tell you? I told you
Sundays
are for rest. I either go to church or I rest and watch racing on TV and just try to rest up. That's my one day to rest up. And then you said, that's the only day I got off.
Well,
and I said, well,
sounds like I was giving my day of rest.
Right. Said, sounds like I'm going to try to rest up on Saturdays. Like, I am not missing your help.
And the thing I noticed is that, everything you do to a car costs money.
Yeah,
and
time.
And what's really great is when you tell them, I think you need this. No problem. I'll call Amazon. I'll order this, and sure enough, 2 or 3 days later, we had enough parts to put on the car the next weekend.
Yeah.
Building cars, I learned a long, long time ago. Putting junkers together that if you buy me $200 worth of parts a day, it's about how many dollars worth I can put on every night. And I kind of remember the conversation we had. Michael was telling me how many races he was planning on winning the next year. And I said, whoa. You don't understand how hard it is to win a race. First of all, you got to have, the car can't break. It depends on starting position sometimes. It depends on how the race shakes out, whether you get in a wreck. There's all sorts of things that make it hard to win a race. And damn, beginning of the next year, Michael goes out there and wins a race. I'm thinking to myself, boy, he just doesn't understand how hard it is to win a race.
I remember that
man,
conversation.
it's like easy.
I remember that conversation.
And I thought, well, it's going to be a long time before we win another one.
Yeah. That was after the 4th or 5th race when we were pure stocking it, and we closed down the track. We were the last ones there. They're kind of asking us, hey, get the hell out of here. But
they turned off the lights and told us to get out.
They
That's
did.
what they actually said.
They did. So we went over to the truck stop and continued to drink. And I listened to old Nom stories and was having a great time listening. And then finally you just looked at me and said, you have no idea how hard it is to win one of these. And I said, it's pure stock. And you said, I don't give a fuck. It's hard to win a race out here, period. And I was like, oh. And then I realized how many things can go wrong. Well, this year I realized how many things really can go wrong that'll just kind of kick you in the teeth, and you just got to get back up and smile and tell life she hits like a bitch and keep going, you know. But that really did stick to me. I was like, whoa, it is hard to watch, because I've watched my friends, good people that have never won a race, 7, 8, 9 years racing and have never won a race. So I always tell everybody, well, find a guy with more gray hair than you that likes racing and listen to him. Just listen. Don't try to outthink him. Just listen. So that's one thing that there's things that I'll admit that are good and things that I'll admit that are bad about myself. But the good thing about me is I've always looked up to the older generations, and I've always worked hard for them to try to boost them. I'm waiting for a younger generation to come and boost me. But you guys have always, your generation was kind of like kick you in the nuts, but also if you ever got twice in 3 years, I think you've said something nice to me, which one was like, you have no idea how hard it is to win a race. And then whatever you just said when we started there, I was like, oh, that's twice. I can count them on one hand easily, but they're those, you don't dish them out very often, but when you do, you know you did something special, because you guys aren't just handing them out like giving a trophy to every participant type generation, which I respect. Well, okay. I didn't want to talk about me. I want to talk about you. This is about you. So let's go back to
I'm about as simple as Forrest Gump.
Nah, you're a freaking. You got a cool story, and you can tell everybody. When we got to the truck stop, I never wanted to shut you off. I'd be like, hold on, I'm gonna go pee over there behind the truck. You keep talking, I can hear you, right? For like 5 more beers. But I never really put a word in there, because the stories that you have, the story that Don Davis has, Martin Robinson, Royal, I know it sounds like a ass kiss thing because he's the man, but who else? Who else we got? Jimmy Ray. Holy, anytime I can get around you old boys. Dickie Gorham. I mean, and I don't know everybody. There's Carneys that I don't know that I want to, not like Lisa's family Carneys, but like John Carney and all those guys. And but there's just legendary people around here, and I haven't heard any of the stories. And I just kind of was like, dude, I gotta talk to people, have a beer with them, and then it'll be there forever. We'll just put it out there. So let's get into your earliest childhood memory. What do you remember? What year was it? Where are we going with life? What did you think was happening? Were you you weren't in the Depression, I know that, but
no, childhood memories. First thing I really remember, when I was 4 years old, I was in a fire and burned all the skin off my hands and burned all my clothes off. And burnt my hands because I was trying to put the flame out, because nobody ever told me to drop and roll.
Stop, drop, and roll, yeah.
Stop, drop, and roll. And I'm running for the house yelling for my mom, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And she comes running out of the farmhouse. She's over there trying to put the fire out.
Hold on, time out. How many times have you been on fire in your lifetime, working on cars and whatnot?
Well, I mean,
A few, huh? Handful?
That was when I was 4 years old.
Okay,
but, I mean,
keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I had a fire in a stock car one time that burned me up pretty good too, in Las Cruces. But anyway, they took me to the hospital and bandaged my hands all up and stuff like that. It was such a big deal that my aunt and my uncle, we lived in New Jersey, and my aunt and uncle flew out to see us. And my aunt had the most beautiful star sapphire ring you've ever seen.
What's a star sapphire ring?
It's a ring that it's blue
like
and it has a little star in it and stuff like
Okay.
that. And it was their engagement ring, and man, I love that ring. And I was looking at it, and we were sitting having a conversation. And I had been to the doctor that day, and the doctor had gone and taken the bandage off of my chest and stuff, and peeled all the dead skin back away, and peeled all the skin. And this hurts.
Yeah.
When the doctor starts peeling that burn off skin off your hands, but my hands are getting better. And the first thing I really remember about that was, they wanted me to eat lots of bananas for the potassium to help rejuvenate the skin and stuff like that. And I was admiring my aunt's ring, and my aunt was asking me. She goes, "I notice on your bandages that your hands are completely bandaged, all your fingers are completely bandaged, but these two fingers right here, my little pinky finger down to the middle joint, and my ring finger was unbandaged. They were kind of hanging out of these bandages." And my aunt asked me, she says, "Well, the doctor bandaged you all back up today after peeling that skin off. You're getting better. Why do you think the doctor left just those two digits of your fingers sticking out of your bandages?" I'm 4 years old. I didn't know the answer to the question. All I know is I'd been eating all these bananas. The only thing I could figure was that, didn't know it was because my fingers were getting better. And I told my aunt, I said, "I guess it's because the doctor knows I can stick that banana between my knees and peel it with these two fingers." And eat that banana. That's my first recollection as being a kid, is being in that fire.
Damn.
We lived out in the country. We lived on a farm, and it was just me and my two brothers.
Where at? Which city and state?
We lived in New Jersey, outside of Plainfield in Mammoth County, corn country.
And what year was this?
Well, I was born in 1949, and this was probably about 1955, 54.
Damn. That was a cool car time right there, 55, 56.
Yeah. My dad drove a new company car every year, brand new Ford. And if he wrecked it, they got him another one. And if he wrecked that one, they got him a third one. And stressed on us, you got to work hard. You got to go to school. You got to get good grades.
Because your dad did he graduate high school?
My dad never went to public school a day in his life.
That's what made him smarter, huh?
Well, I don't know. He was a street orphan.
Yeah.
Grew up in New York City. Never went to public school. Couldn't read or write until he was 30. But he was the law. Don't get me wrong. I lived in a dictatorship when I was a kid. And always told us, if you get a good job, you can buy a brand new car every year. Well, he didn't tell us that was a company car. The company gave it.
Well, this is God's honest truth. I don't know. How did because disciplining kids these days, I mean, you can't, there's a lot of things that are out of bounds. How was getting disciplined when you were a kid?
I was pretty much a swat on the butt.
Yeah. With a hand
but
or
I
a
was
switch or what?
back then. I think I was a pretty quick learner because it didn't take too many of them before I started falling in line pretty good, And
yeah.
And of course, I was a middle brother, so I had an older brother and a younger brother to absorb some of the wrath.
Yeah.
In my family, and of course, my dad was one of those hard-headed, non-educated, might is right type of people, and of course, my mom was 100% the other direction. She was college educated, and
When did she graduate college? What year do you think?
Oh, let's see.
In the 50s or 60s?
Oh, no, my mother graduated college. She was born in 1911, so she probably graduated college in 35.
Incredible, huh? There was not very many women graduating college back then, right?
She had fairly wealthy parents.
Okay.
And got a good education and carried it with her. And I never knew that my mom was so educated and my dad was so illiterate. And my dad was always right. My mom was just the person who had to talk him into being right when he was wrong.
That's weird.
Until it became his idea.
I don't know anybody like that.
Well, you know, I mean, I guess it's part of the way I am. You know, my dad was one of those guys that when he voted, when he went into the voting booth, all he had to do is check that one box, straight Republican Party, and you know, thought if you weren't an Episcopalian like we were, that you're going to hell. Doesn't matter whether you're a Catholic or Baptist, a Methodist, Jewish. You're going to hell if you're not an Episcopalian.
Yeah.
Very, very racially biased person. We had a black maid when I was a kid, and Frankie. The only thing I could tell that was a little different about Frankie, other than the fact she was black, is she was left-handed. I thought all black people are left-handed. And I remember, you know, she helped my mom do the diapers and do the housework and do everything that a good non-live-in maid does. You know, she did a lot of the work to help my mom along. And you know, my mom was a homemaker, and my dad get home from work from the city every day. We lived out on the farm. He was a city farmer. Make a lot of money in the city and waste it all on the farm, lose money on the farm, thinking one of these days I'm going to be wealthy. And the rule was, Frankie the maid, she can do anything. She's just not allowed to cook food for my dad. My dad was a weirdo. Before he'd eat it off a plate, because he ate at diners in New York City and very unsanitary other places, before he would eat a meal, you had to take his plate that his food was served on and put it in the oven and bring it up to 300 degrees. And I remember sometimes when he would get home, my mom would serve his meal, she would put something on the plate, it'd still be sizzling, the plate would be that hot.
Damn.
And I remember, you know, my dad was you know, when we weren't going to school, he took us to work with him, and we'd stand up at a diner and eat a hot dog for lunch or something like that. And I remember one day, you know, I told the guy at the diner, I want an American cheese sandwich. What do you want on it? Just 2 slices of bread and 1 slice of American cheese in the middle. What else? I'll have a glass of milk. Okay, so I'm eating my sandwich and I'm drinking the milk, and my dad tells him, hey, don't drink the last inch of milk in that glass. What? You always tell me at home, finish the glass off. Not here at the dyno, because you don't know what's in the bottom of the glass. Oh. That's the kind of place it was. So he must have had some kind of immunity for eating some pretty rotten food.
Nice.
Along the way.
Well, cheers. I want you to have a drink. Cheers.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're
My
here.
dad worked for the same company for 33 years, stressed that if you had a good job, you'd be driving a new car, live in a house that you owned, not someplace you rented. Had to get a college education. Whatever you do, man, don't make sure you don't end up in the military service.
Now, I never do this.
Yeah, never do this and never do this and never do this.
I never do this. When you talk, out of respect, I let you talk until you're done, and sometimes it goes a long time, and I just let you talk because I just respect you so much. But here, I got to get to the bottom of some of your stories. So, look, was your mom the breadwinner?
No, my dad was a homemaker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a guy who made lots of money. I remember
he did good with any kind of education.
Well,
huh?
you know, he worked for the same company for 33 years. That's the other thing he stressed.
Which company?
Is that you got to get a job and be a good company man and work for the same company your whole life.
That hasn't worked out so good for my generation.
It didn't work out too good for me either.
But what
didn't work out too good for him, it turned out.
Your mom's the smartest one, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My dad passed away when I was 11 years old. And breadwinner of the family. And all of a sudden, oh, man, I'm thinking, man, when my dad passed away, I thought, what's going to happen to me? Well, what was going to happen to me was my mom had a college education. She went out and got a job and probably made more money than he ever made.
That's what I was thinking.
Although, when my mom passed away, she was a hoarder, too, like me.
But she's a car hoarder. Didn't she have a Corvette or something?
She did at one time. I mean, in 1966, she was a college professor at UTEP.
Yeah.
And her family car was a 442.
Yeah.
With a 4-speed.
I love that lady. I never met her, but I love her.
And so when she passed away, we went through some of her stuff, and I found my dad's tax returns from 1957. And I guess in 1957, to considered upper middle class, you made $5,000 a year.
Damn.
$200 a week is what his paycheck was. Couldn't believe it. Plus bonuses and stock and whatever else he got along the way. You know, I mean, it was one of those deals. I mean, and of course, my dad, you know, the iron fist of the world. What day does he pick to pass away? Father's Day.
Bet that tears you up.
Yeah,
Father's
man.
Day.
What a day. Father's Day.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
But anyway, my mom did a pretty good job of raising the family after he passed away. You know, we always thought we were kind of middle class. When we moved to El Paso, we lived in Coronado Hills. Mm-hmm. And Coronado wasn't even really attached to the rest of the city. It was a place out on the west side of town, halfway to the valley.
Time out. I got to interrupt you. So, I do have a dad that's still alive, but you came into my life, and every Father's Day, I think I'm gonna have to flip a switch because you've been more of a father to me than he has been in 50 years. So I want you to know that I appreciate you like that. And okay, move on. Coronado, what now?
Coronado, and that was considered the rich people in town. Well, that might have been the rich people. Everybody else I went to high school with might have had wealthy parents. And some of them did. They lived in the Coronado Country Club, and they drove nice cars and stuff like that. But I'd say we were just about as middle class as you could get. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the kids I went to high school with were middle class. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of them have gone on and done some pretty spectacular things in their life because they got good education, you know, after they got out of high school, or they moved to Alaska and made their fortune in Alaska. Man, I wasn't ready for getting out of high school. First of all, I didn't know what I was going to do. I still like having fun.
Speaking of having fun, drink that beer so we can have
My
another.
kind of fun.
We're not getting to the bottom of nothing all the way sober. All right.
Didn't go to college.
Is your beer still full?
Not full, but it's still cold. It's halfway
I
down.
thought we were drinking beer. No wonder I'm always the one slurring at the end of
maybe
5
that's
hours
what
listening to your stories. You had like 3
If
beers.
you want me, I'll catch up. It doesn't
Catch
take
up
very long.
already.
You know, I can down this. I can down a complete Coors in 7 seconds.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. Let's see it.
Well, we have to poke another hole.
No, we already had you choking on
I'll be
freaking beer
heaving in a
tab.
minute. And so I started my illustrious Army career and realized, well, I don't fit here either. I'm gung-ho, and everybody else has got the wrong attitude.
Same. That's how I was in the Air Force.
Jesus. I mean, that was... But I made the most of it, you know. I mean, you go to basic training, and they tell you what to do, and, you know, you just got to get the mind that got to fall in line, do what I'm supposed to do, get the training I'm supposed to get, do the best that I can. Maybe I can get a little ahead.
Speaking of getting ahead, you're all the way to your military career. We've missed all of junior high and high school. All right, back up. Have a drink. Let me ask some questions. I'm not trying to force feed you beer, but you're not going to have me slurring words while you're over there straight sober like Michael's a jackass.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to do. I see it. So look, junior high. What was your first real little junior high sweetheart? What was she like? What was her name?
Oh, let's see. Did I have a junior high sweetheart?
I know
don't
you
think
did.
I had.
Yes,
oh,
you
yeah.
did.
Yeah, Ruth Blake.
I knew it was Ruth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember her.
She had a twin sister, too.
Oh, I liked her twin.
And, boy, beautiful blonde girl.
Yeah.
And they lived right next door to us.
Ooh, weird.
In
You
junior
dated
high
the
school.
neighbor.
And then, for whatever reason, her parents decided to move, and they moved out of our school district. That was the end of that.
I could tell you the reason. Did you have a
No, that
beard when
wasn't-
you were like 13?
No.
Like, we got to get out of
And
here.
of course,
This dude's a
don't get me
creeper.
wrong. You know, I started school when I was 4 years old. You know, I'm one of those people that made it before the cut. I graduated from high school when I was 17. I was one of the youngest people in my class. Everybody else is 18, 19 years old. You know, hey, when I graduated from high school, I wasn't even signed up for the draft yet. Everybody else was.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ruth Blake, yeah, she was...
Was she a cutie?
Oh, man, beautiful blonde girl. Yeah.
Yeah? Brown eyes or
but
what?
a little shy.
Blue?
Little shy. Her
Brown.
sister was much more outgoing, but a friend of mine dated her sister.
Brown eyes.
No, blue eyes.
Shit.
Very blonde and blue eyes, stuff
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
And I remember her parents had a really cool Buick convertible that they used to flip the top down on and look like Hollywood driving around, you know.
So then she went from like a 6 to a 10 because she had a freaking hot car, huh?
Well, I don't know if we weren't old enough to drive back then, but I remember, you know, at night there were some people in the neighborhood that about 10 o'clock at night you'd hear them firing up those 55 and 57 Chevys with the
So badass.
open headers on them, and you know, they'd be over there tuning them up, and about 11 o'clock at night, you could hear them out drag racing on Valrico Drive.
Hell yeah.
And I thought, man, oh man, oh man. And, you know, I wanted like crazy to go.
Yeah.
You know. And one of the guys that went to church with me was a guy named Jerry Pelham, and he had a Fiat Pininfarina little convertible sports car. Mm-hmm. And I think I was 11 years old or something like that, and Jerry was 18. He was old enough to have a driver's license. Rich parents and stuff like that. Man, we used to love to go to Tampa and go cruise around Bayshore Boulevard on Friday and Saturday nights and stuff like that. Is this high school? No, I was in junior high school at the time.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go to high school. I went to junior high school when we lived in Florida.
What year was this? 55, 56?
Oh, no. I was in junior high school 1959, 60, 61.
Okay.
59, I was still in elementary school. 60, 61, during the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know, we'd moved to Florida. That's when my dad passed away, and I remember my mom decided, you know, Cuban Missile Crisis, we live in Florida. Can you imagine 90 miles away, they're arming the nuclear warheads in Cuba?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to go to civil defense school. So here I am, 11 years old, going to civil defense school. And they're showing all these videos of nerve gas, what it does to you, and mustard gas, and live scenes from World War II, and these people convulsing on the ground, and how to give yourself a shot of atropine. 11 years old, they're showing me this stuff, and I'm thinking, whoa. Looking back on it, you know, hey, it wasn't no big deal at the time, but looking back on it, I'm thinking to myself, you know what, these days we don't show 11-year-old kids stuff like that.
No.
And Cuban Missile Crisis, that was pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
You know, duck and cover. That's what they taught you in school.
Yeah. Hide under your desk and all that stuff.
Yeah, hide under your desk, you know, and get away from the wall, because when the nuclear blast goes off and blasts the window into your classroom, you don't want to get cut by the flying glass and stuff like that. And of course, you know, we didn't understand what the government's real plan was for the nation, and you know, wasn't until I was way after high school that I realized that John Kennedy's plan, if we had a nuclear attack, was it's every man for himself.
Yeah.
You know, we had all these fallout shelters and stuff, and I thought the government was going to take care of us. No, that wasn't the plan. The plan was every man for himself. Which is fine, you know. And to interject in today's society, the reason that we do not fear nuclear radiation and atomic blasts these days is because all the people that were in Japan that suffered that stuff, they're not around anymore to remind us of what it was like. We don't know how hideous a nuclear war could possibly be. You know, it's just something that, oh well, you know, we got nukes and they got nukes and everything.
I feel like I failed as a podcast director. I went from junior high blonde hair, Ruth, yeah, to blue eyes, and then all of a sudden we're talking about glass blasting you in a nuclear war. How did we get here?
I don't know.
Have a drink.
Yeah, have a drink.
All right. That's a perfect segue into we got a big corporate sponsor this time. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, this thing is being sponsored. I'm not even going to have to pay for it.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's Ralph's Bowling Ball Polish.
Fuck with me, you know I got it.
The cleanest your balls will ever be.
Wow, that's...
Yeah.
I like that slogan.
Yeah, that's a good one, right?
Yeah. I used to do some bowling.
Yeah, I bet you did. Yeah, Ralph's Bowling Ball puts out the best polish, and my balls have always been clean ever since I started using it. My balls are cleaner than anybody else's balls at the bowling alley. But where were you going with the nuclear thing? Can we? Let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere else.
That was the thing. You know, when we moved to El Paso there in Coronado, walking distance from my house, they built a 40-lane Brunswick bowling alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we lived out in Coronado, and it was like 5 miles to downtown.
I feel like I'm good at this. We're to a bowling alley now.
Yeah.
From nuclear war.
Yeah.
I like it.
And so they had some kind of deal. I think it was I think the bowling was $30 a line.
Yeah.
And I think your shoe rental was 5 cents.
How much was a bowling ball cleaner?
25 cents. When it was coin operated. You put your bowling ball in there, and put your quarter in there, and it would go around and polish the ball up.
They didn't have the special kind that you can polish your balls yourself?
No.
No? Yeah, they got that now. It's
They
Ralph's
had
bowling ball
they had a
cleaner.
pretty neat pro shop there, but you know that bowling alley, 40 lanes. I mean, huge. I think it was the biggest bowling alley west of the Mississippi River at the time. I think was the claim to fame there, and nobody went. And they sold these little passes where if you bought this booklet, you could get X number of hundreds of games for $5 or something like that. I think it came down to $8 a line or something like that.
Nice.
And they were losing money. We also belonged to the West Side Community Swimming Pool Association.
All right, I can see
know?
this is going in a weird direction. Let's go back to high school. Who's your first high school sweetheart?
You know, she wasn't my sweetheart at the time, but
Ooh.
I do remember.
You worked it out later.
No.
Oh,
No, but
okay.
a gal that was she wasn't really my sweetheart, but we dated a lot in high school, on and off. And the first time I met her was Memorial Day of 1964. How's that for a memory? And the reason I remember that is because we were on a church retreat.
Church girls, huh? That's where I found my girl. Ask her.
To Cloudcroft. And the adults that we were with, it was my brother and his girlfriend, and that's how I met this girl, Linda Evans. She was my brother's girlfriend's best friend. And compared to my brother's girlfriend, this girl was pretty hot. And so anyway, we had a couple of adults that were supervising us, and we rode up on the old Alamogordo Highway when it was 2 lanes and dangerous as hell, in a 57 Plymouth Savoy that broke down on the way to Alamogordo.
Nice.
And we thought, man, what are we going to do? And it's Memorial Day weekend. There's nobody open. And we pull into this place, and turns out, I don't know anything about cars at the time. You know, I'm a freshman in high school. And they managed to take the carburetor apart and find some piece off of a farm tractor that they put in there, and we made it up to the church retreat for the day and stuff like that. And then, you know, that's how I got to know Linda. She was, I thought she was real pretty. And I
What did
remember,
you look like by
but
then?
she
You
was
still have a beard?
she was a bad influence on me.
You were in high school. Did you have a beard by then?
No, not quite.
Okay.
I
we're
re-
gonna fast forward it just a touch, and then we're gonna come back to Linda. When did you grow this big beard?
Let's see. I started growing a beard on and off, kind of. I had one in the 70s, I guess.
After the service.
Oh, way after. Well, that was the thing. You know, I kind of had a little bit of a scruff when I was in the service, and Major Price was the detachment commander there. And because I cooperated and did the best job I could, I don't say that I got any favoritism, but one day I was over my
Whoa. We're talking about the beard. We got to go back to...
Yeah, I'm talking about the beard.
Let's go back to Linda. No,
Oh,
I just wanted to know when.
Go back to Linda.
All right, let's go back to Linda.
All right, well, anyway, Linda, terrible influence on me.
Ooh, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, you know, she was kind of wild and stuff like that.
What does that mean?
Well, her idea of a date was before we go to the movies or before we go watch the Beach Boys concert or something like that, we need to go to Juarez and have a couple of drinks.
Sounds like our kind.
Oh, man. Boy, if my mom had ever found out about anything like that, I would have never been able to talk to her again.
Yeah.
And,
how old was she?
Oh, she was the same age I was, you know.
16, 17, 18?
Well, when I met her, I was, I think I was 12.
No, I said high school.
I was 12 in high school.
What?
My freshman year, 1963 was my freshman year. Of course, my birthday, I was born on Thanksgiving Day. But in 1963, my birthday was the day after the President of the United States got assassinated. And man, those Democrats, they screwed up my birthday party so bad, I still can't get over it.
We digress quickly. All right, let's reel it back
But anyway,
in.
I had met Linda on Memorial Day, 1964, and it was the day that they had a bad crash in Indianapolis. Eddie Sachs and can't remember the other guy's name got killed that day, and so they postponed the race till the next day, and that was the only thing we had to listen to on the way up to the resort.
So you'd listen to the Indy 500.
Yeah, you know, and I don't know, we had a good day, and then a couple of years later, she wanted to go to Cloudcroft and go skiing one day.
Wait a minute. You were 12 in high school. How old was she?
She was probably 12 or 13. She was a freshman, too.
In high school?
Yeah.
Is that how they did it back then? 12-year-olds almost can't tie their shoes these days. You know that.
Well, I know, but I mean, it was amazing when I first. It was right when I was 12 when we moved to El Paso, and I remember I went over to get my football uniform for practice and stuff like that. Well, the people that were on the freshman team had already got their uniforms a couple days before, and I'm over there, and it's the 8th grade team that's getting fitted for their uniforms that day. And of course, I'm 12 years old, and I'm going on 6 foot tall.
Yeah, sure.
And these 8th graders are looking at me like, "Are you going to be on our team? Jesus Christ, I think I'm going to quit right now."
Yeah, all right. Okay, let's fast forward to just, I think it was military service before you ever met Jennifer, correct?
Oh, way before then.
Military service was when? You got drafted?
Yeah, 1960, late part of 67, 68.
And how'd that feel when your number came up?
Well, back then it wasn't the lottery. It was, here's your draft notice. You're ordered to report. And so anyway, the first day I went down, and they give you lots of psychological exams and a physical.
What was your family? Were they all freaked out that you had to go, or?
No,
Everybody
because everybody was going.
Okay.
If you didn't go to college, you were going to go. And my mom wasn't too freaked out about that. Matter of fact, my mom wasn't freaked out about any part of my military service. And you got to remember that, of course, I was in the service at a really bad time. When I went to Vietnam, it was the thing to do. And a year later, it was, man, how come you didn't go to Canada? And how come you didn't burn your draft card and go to Canada and object or something like that? Whoa, wait a minute. That's not what you told me when I left. So that was a deal. And, they didn't know what PTSD was at the time. And I had a pretty bad case of it when I got back. And over the years, I figured out, why do people get PTSD? Well, you know what? You go in the Army, they give you a barrage of shots, immunize you against everything in the world, smallpox, everything but anthrax, I guess, chicken pox. They give you a barrage of shocks, and they teach you how to fire a weapon, and they teach you how to do everything except fight off PTSD, which is, to me, caused by I'm over here and my friends are over there having fun, and I can't wait to get back and have fun. But 2 years later, your high school buddies are not there anymore. They've got their own lives, and they've moved on to something else. And you're out there in the middle of the pond in a rowboat with no paddle. Mm-hmm. And you wonder why people are different. And then when they first came out and said, oh, this is post-traumatic stress syndrome, I thought to myself, that's just a bunch of them bad guys that had bad attitudes while they were there, didn't want to work, don't want to work now, would rather stand on a corner, and they don't want to get on with their life. You're the one who's sick. You're the only one who's going to get over it. So I didn't have any respect for, I could go to the VA, and I signed up when I got out of the Army. I've never been to the VA one time in my life because I have a little different thinking about the VA. You're entitled to all these medical and benefits and stuff like that. Well, here's a guy in 1968 and 69 that in his whole military career made $5,000. 2 years, right out of high school, got a 2-year job, gets paid $5,000. And that employer, in this case Uncle Sam, is responsible for your medical for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I don't.
Man, if I'd have gone to work at McDonald's and worked there for 2 years, would they be responsible for my health care for the rest of my life? That doesn't seem right.
See, you've told me that before.
I think if you need health care, I think then it's the government, and it's service related. Then I think it's a good thing that we have the VA. But other than that, it's just a waste of the taxpayers' money.
Yeah, and I know you feel that way. We've talked about that, but I've never really told you my side of that. Just as a taxpayer in America, as hard as I've worked, and then to start a company on my own, just floating along, started a company on my own, and then look at how much it costs to go to the doctor and see anybody about anything. And then I'm like, okay, we'll be bankrupt if I see a doctor about anything, and I've paid taxes my whole life. And so, I know and I respect that, man. I really respect that. But for me as a veteran, I'm like, it took me 15 years before I ever pulled out my veteran card to get 10% off at Home Depot. And I was like, dude, you're a jackass. Why don't you freaking take you did sign up. You were willing to risk your life for our country. You deserve whatever the government is going to give you. When all those that have not done that are taking, to me, I've never agreed with you on this. And as I said before, I just smiled, yes, sir, and just let you talk. But since we're having a real conversation, I think the taxpayers of America owe you a debt of gratitude for what you did. And if you go and spend $10,000 a year getting your legs fixed so that you can walk another 2 years, I'm happy to pay it. We're printing money to send to countries that we have no interest in, have nothing to do with democracy, and they always just print money for that. They can print money to take care of you. We owe you a lot.
Well,
so
let me tell you the other side of that story is the VA's killed a lot of my friends.
that's true too. Yeah, I try to stay away from that as much as I can.
Yeah, you know what?
But
you never know there's anything wrong with you until you go to the doctor. That's why I try to stay away from them.
what about racing? I want to get into when you met Jennifer, because I've never even heard
Oh,
this
man,
story.
that was a long time after racing.
All right, let's go to racing then.
Racing.
Yeah.
Well,
wait, when's your earliest recollection of going to a dirt track?
1973.
Cheers. I see your trick now. Now that we're drinking one for one, you always let me just drink and you talk the whole time. No wonder you could drive home.
I told you
I was
once you
like,
get
how
me
the
going.
shit can you drive home? I'm like one thumb in it, asking Lisa to come get me and drive a race trailer home. And here you are. I was like, he's a legend. He can drink all night with me. Except for you were talking and I was drinking. Okay, go ahead.
I guess 1973. Well, actually, I was into drag racing before, and I met a guy named Lloyd Souls. And I bought a 427 Chevrolet from him and rebuilt it, put it in my drag car, and got to know Lloyd a little bit more. And he was into dirt car racing. He was one of the fast guys at Las Cruces Speedway in the 70s.
Is that at the fairgrounds?
Yeah, when they ran big block Chevrolets, I mean high-performance Corvette big block Chevrolets that were modified and stuff like that.
Wait a minute. Were a lot of people getting hurt back then? I know the safety wasn't like it is today.
Well,
I feel like they were kind of
yeah,
badasses
I mean,
back
I got
then.
burned up in a car. I guess people got hurt.
Yeah. But, I mean, today it's pretty safe, you know?
Well, my parents, when we lived in Florida, they thought stock car racing was blood and guts.
Yeah.
And we lived out in Valrico, and the train was, I don't know.
Where's Valrico?
Valrico, it's outside of Brandon, which is outside Tampa. It's on Highway 60 going between...
Well, you can't just say Valrico like we know where the shit that's at. Okay.
Anyway, the train ran through there, and for 35 cents you could catch the train to Tampa.
Yeah.
And we would get money from my parents and tell them we're going to go watch the movies on Saturday night, catch the train, go to Tampa, and we'd end up at the Golden Triangle Speedway
Hell yeah.
and go watch the stock car races
Nice.
until my older brother let it slip one day. And that was the end of going to the stock car races in Tampa.
How old were you when you were going there and they shut it off?
10 years old.
Oh, damn. Pretty early.
Actually, Richard Betty ran a NASCAR race at the Golden Triangle one time. I think he won it. Anyway, so I was into drag racing. I wasn't really into dirt car racing. And Lloyd and his brother told me, man, you start dirt car racing, you will love it, and you'll never go back to drag racing again. Well, the problem with drag racing is that they came out with what was called bracket racing. And bracket racing is you tell them, well, my car will go 15 seconds in the quarter mile or 12 seconds in the quarter mile, and then you have to go exactly 12 seconds in the quarter mile and have good reaction time to win it.
Yeah.
Drag racing to me is you go build a hot rod that's faster than this guy's hot rod, and you both take off at the same time, or maybe give a guy a handicap, and whoever built the best machine and has the best reaction time wins the race.
Yeah.
So bracket racing is just like there were guys out there that were running Volkswagen Bugs
Yeah.
that turned 22 seconds. Gary Shearer would go run the whole quarter mile, and he would sit there right next to the finish line, and he would stop, and when he'd see that other car coming, he would hop across the line just before they got there.
Dang.
It was ridiculous. So I got a little interested in stock car racing, and of course, You go help somebody on a stock car, and before you know it, you get the bug and decide you're going to build your own car.
Yeah. And when did you start racing? When did you strap up?
1974.
No way. That's when I was born. That was 50 years ago.
Yeah, I went to the salvage auction at El Paso Auto Auction, and there was a burnt SS 396-69 Chevelle.
You're all about burnt shit, I'm noticing. You got a burnt driver. You burnt yourself.
Well, I didn't understand about burnt cars and how bad of luck they are, you know. And but it had all the good ingredients: big block Chevrolet, 4-speed transmission, 12-bolt rear end, you know. And all I got to do is figure out how to put a cage in it. Didn't know how to weld at the time.
Still don't. I've seen them.
Well, back then we welded them with Schedule 20 pipe and an arc welder.
Yeah.
You know, and a Greenlee pipe bender. And I worked on that car, and I worked on that car, and I worked on that car, and I got it painted in flame paint job and numbered, and cost me $400 to get it lettered, you know, from some sign painting company.
Yeah, but they'd paint it by hand back then.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. But the guy could paint. He told me it's going to take a long, long time, and when he got out there to do it, he kind of marked it in with a pencil, and when he got after it with a paintbrush, it was like he was writing his name.
Yeah.
It took him like an hour.
Yeah, those long paintbrushes.
Yeah.
That's my earliest recollection.
And my
too.
first recollection, my first race at Las Cruces was, they told me, all right, well, you're just beginning. Whatever you do, stay on the inside. Don't try to race anybody. Just kind of get the feel of it. Gas it on the straightaway and take it real easy in the turn.
Whoa, hold on, time out. We have receivers, and they're talking pretty much, telling you, you guys, What about you? How the hell did you guys even do it back then before you had electronics?
Well, we went around and around and around until people got lined up correctly. You know, they had a pit board, and you'd walk over to the pit board, you know, and they'd write the line up in chalk for the races and stuff like that. So it was a constant going from your pit to the pit board and back.
And when you showed up, was there somebody like, hey, you're in the wrong spot, and put you there?
Well, and the thing was back then
the staging?
They had before Speedway Park, they had no discipline. They'd call the race. All right, it's time for the first heat race. Go get in line. And people would say, well, it's going to take 20 minutes for people to go get in line. Why am I in a hurry? Oh. You know, and they would let guys go out and drive around the track and hot lap until everybody decided, hey, the race is about ready to begin. Let me go put my suit on and go get in line. Of course, we didn't wear suits back then.
Yeah.
We just wore
some jeans and a T-shirt or what?
T-shirt and jeans, yeah.
Did you have any kind of head and neck, any foam, anything?
No. Open face helmets.
Sissies.
Open face helmets.
Gotcha.
And
they hadn't even invented
some guys
wore
a bandana they pulled up over their nose to keep the mud from hitting them in the face so bad.
Those are the smart ones.
Yeah. And so anyway, I remember the first race I ever raced. You know, they told me take it real easy. You're going to have to start at the back because they had a 2-week. You got to start at the back rule. And I remember the first heat race or the first main event I was in. We're going down the back straightaway. You know, we green flags out. I'm already around turn 1 and turn 2, and we're going down the back straightaway. And I'm at the tail end of the pack, and there's 2 or 3 guys driving around in front of me. And I thought to myself, first inclination I have is, well, I saw the green flag come out. I wonder why these guys are going so slow. And I went around another lap or 2, and I finally decided, you know what, I'm supposed to stay on the inside and follow these guys, but guess what? I'm going to move over into the other lane and give it some gas and see what happens. And I didn't do very well my first couple of races, and then I guess I'd raced it, 4, 5, 6 races, and got crashed, and bent the frame horn on the car. And, you know, I was ill-equipped at that time we didn't have porta powers, and, you know, people didn't have good frame machines and stuff. You know, you bend the frame horn, you pretty much are in the position that you're going to have to cut it off and go to the salvage yard and buy another one and weld it on and put your car back together. And my beautiful car that was pristine with a nice paint job on it and stuff like that is now a wreck.
Weird.
I was pretty, and you know, then a couple of weeks later, my car caught on fire and I got burned pretty bad in that car. And I got to thinking to myself, you know what, this dirt track racing, I'm not sure it's for me.
Yeah.
I quit and sold my car to Danny Baldwin.
No shit.
Yeah. And stayed away from it for several years until I couldn't stand it anymore. You know, I still went to the races, don't get me wrong, and helped some other people, but didn't race a car. And then I kind of got the itch. Well, you know, financially I'm kind of in a position now where I can afford a car. Let me think about getting another car.
How old were you then when you could afford it?
28.
Damn. Took me till 48 before I
Well,
could afford
I
it.
really couldn't afford it, but I mean, I could kind of afford it. You know, I was working for somebody else. I had a 48-hour-a-week job, that I was making okay money, and I was trying to save some money back and stuff like that, and kind of stumbled into a car at the right price. And
You think those times are harder than these times, or easier than
well, the
these
difference
times?
was back then is that the way you build a race car right now is you get a cell phone, the internet, and a credit card.
Why'd you have to look at me like that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're building a street rod. Street rod, a guy used to go and fabricate all the parts and do all the work himself. Now he just goes and gets a Pete and Jake's catalog and starts ordering parts.
Yeah.
A guy told me he could build a 32 Ford in 6 weeks. I said, man, there's just no way. That's an awful lot of work. You got to build a motor. Oh, I don't build a motor. I just order one from Summit or Jegs.
Yeah.
Well, what about I'll get a TCI transmission.
But when was your first win? When did you get to your first win?
I won a race in believe it or not, 1987.
No shit.
It was the first time I won a race.
Damn.
Yeah, man, it was a long, long time.
How many years had you raced before you won your first race?
Oh, I don't know. A lot, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that was one race that year, and then there was one I had a chance to win, and I was racing against my best friend, and we'd been duking it out for 20 laps, green to green, green to checker, and I think I could have beat him on the last lap, but I would have had to rub him, and I didn't want to do that because I wanted to take care of my car, and I sure didn't want to rub his car.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't know we were in first and second place. I thought we were somewhere back there in the pack because we started dead last and next to last, and we've been driving and driving and driving and driving and driving. The laps have been going down, and we haven't had a yellow. And got to the pits, and Russell Bachmiller was there, and he comes over. I'm sitting in the car parked behind the trailer, and he's hitting me on my shoulders. Way to go, man! Way to go! Way to go! I said, way to go. I said, where did I finish? And he says, oh, you finished second. I said, what? Man, I was way back there. I said, who won it? Well, Jimmy, your best friend, won it. I said, man, I had a chance to pass him the last lap.
Jimmy Kahn?
Yeah.
No
yeah.
way.
And I let Jimmy win it because I didn't want to rub him. He was on the outside. And I could have rubbed him on. I said, well, what happened to Sherman? Oh, Sherman? I think Sherman had a flat tire. Well, what happened to Christie? I don't know, but she ended up in the infield too. And well, what happened to this person? I don't even remember seeing him in the main event. And I thought, holy crap, man. We were running first and second, but it was one of those deals when we saw the white flag came out, we thought there was some people that had already passed the white flag and then the green flag. I said, go over there and ask Jimmy how he finished. And he goes over there and he tells Jimmy, hey, way to go, way to go. And Jimmy says, how'd I finish? And Russell tells him, you won it. And Jimmy goes, nah, you're full of crap, man. We probably finished 7th and 8th or something like that. No. All them other people went out.
Damn.
They didn't have any yellows, and that's how y'all won it.
Damn.
And I thought, holy crap, gave one away. But that was the first race that Jimmy had won in. God, I think since he drove Jim Morrell's car or something like that back in the 70s.
Yeah, and you told me, just for context, that I think it was last week I was working on some destroyed stuff, and you're like, I'm going to see Jimmy Kahn, my buddy Jimmy Kahn at the nursing home. And if I get done there, I'll come and see you and see about putting that car back together. But that's just some context to how fast time creeps up on us, and you're going to see your buddy in the nursing home. 5 minutes ago, you're throwing a leg over and freaking duking it out for first and second. I've always had that perspective about life, how short it is, and how much the people around you should mean to you, whether they do or don't. Like, they kind of should mean something to you. Even the people that I don't like, honestly, they teach me something. Every time I'm around them, I'm like, oh, this right now, this lady is teaching me something. She's a teacher, and you're the student. Just shut up and learn whatever she's got to teach you. So I've always had that perspective, and it's good to hear some stories of what you had going on. Are you going to drink or not? This is how you get me. This is why I'm always peeing, and you're freaking telling stories, and I'm over there, just keep talking. Now I know how you drive all the way to the east side of El Paso every time we're done. I had no idea. Now I know. We just had to sit here and drink beer.
Well,
now I know you had 2 beers. I had like 6 beers probably.
Yeah, no, I think we're about even right now.
Are we really?
Yeah.
You staying the night?
No. But, back in those racing days, man, the thing I always love about racing is after the racing were over, we go build a bonfire in the infield.
I missed that whole thing.
Hey, we didn't ever go home until the sun was coming up in the morning.
And you could duke it out, right? You could just beat the shit out of each other, and then next week you're like, all right, that's over with.
You go over to the pits and there'd be 5 different groups of people having bonfires.
Yeah.
All your friends would come over. We stack lumber up and stuff like that.
But couldn't you sort it out? Couldn't you sort things out a little better? And like right now, it's like everybody migrates to, and then you migrate, and I'm like, man, I just wish we could just smack each other one time. And I'm not even a fighter. But somebody would beat the shit out of me, and I'd be like, well, I probably deserve that, whatever. But I don't know. Did you guys ever just move past your stuff just by just knuckles, or not really?
Well, I remember one night, and of course it was with Jimmy. Jimmy was a fighter. At one time he was a little guy, but he could fight pretty good. And it was right after they had widened Montana, and we were coming home from the races in the 4-lane zone, and all of a sudden the traffic's
Montana Road in El Paso, right? Yeah.
The main drag back from the speedway to the city, and it was nothing but desert out there. And we come to a stop, and we're sitting there, and I was in my truck and had my car and my trailer behind me, and I think Jimmy was behind me driving his Ford truck, and he had his race car with him, and it was an extended cab, so it's room enough for 5 people with him. And traffic's come to a stop. We're going to go find out what Jimmy says. Hey, I'm going to go up there and find out what's happening. And I said, all right, good. Let me know when the traffic jam is clear and we can go and stuff like that. And then a minute later, his brother, not a minute later, a couple of minutes later, his brother, who had gone up there with him, Larry, and Larry had worked for me at one time. He worked for me for a while, and he worked for Jimmy for a while, and he worked for me again. And he was a truck driver when he wasn't working for one of us. And Larry comes back. He says, come on, Jimmy needs your help. They're getting in a fight up there. And sure enough, I'm not going to tell you who it was that started that fight.
I want to hear it. Who was it?
He's dead now, so I guess it's okay. It was a guy named David J. He's passed away here recently. And he was having some kind of a spout with his girlfriend. And somehow he got her to stop in the middle of Montana Street. He slapped her, and of course, when he slapped her, Jimmy took a punch at him.
Oh, I don't know if.
And of course, he was a friend of the Fuenteses from Mexico. And before you know it, there's a brawl right out there. We got traffic stopped on a 4-lane highway, and there's a brawl in the middle of the street. And man, there sure were a lot of tumbleweed stickers in the middle of the because of the highway was up here, and it kind of went down like this, and then the highway was up on the other side. When the whole mass of humanity, which was probably about 15 people slugging at each other, came rolling down the hill. We didn't realize all those tumbleweeds had turned into stickers. Man, I mean, it felt like I was getting stabbed by a million pins. And this whole mass of humanity is rolling over the top of me, and I'm wondering if I'm going to end up on the bottom of this pile or the top of this pile. And I don't remember who it was. We got a couple of licks in him. Whoever it was Jimmy hit him in the face here, and it poked one of his sharp teeth through his gum. And he's bleeding pretty bad after this fight is over, and he's all hostile about it. And in the meantime, David J's girlfriend, she's got away, and the traffic's already moving, and our cars are sitting there in the left-hand lane, with everybody in a pile, and one of the Fuentes guys over there with a baseball bat getting ready to club somebody over the head. That was a good fight.
Seems like a good time.
Yeah.
I bet you guys had fun.
Bonfires. Hey, I'll tell you what, I
brawls.
remember, I guess it was a couple of weeks after that, I was walking through the pits, and where those guys were parked, they were looking at me, and they were pointing me out, hey, that's one of the guys that was in that fight the other night. And I thought, oh, crap.
Now, how about your first win?
Pretty uneventful that night.
What?
Yeah, just had a good starting position and ran in second. I think the week before I don't remember the guy's name that was in that Nova that was there at the front. And couldn't get past him and couldn't get past him and couldn't get past him. And the next week, managed to get up to second place. And I thought, man, I'm just going to try it on the outside and see what happens. And that was in some old junker cars that we had that were really, really fun. And then after we'd moved up to, I think what we called hot stocks. It was day racing, and I remember they had a claimer class at the time, which was pretty much knock the windows out, and you have to have a seat belt. And the last race of the season, it's a daytime race, and I bet there were 25, 30 cars in this race, and they're going around, and they've got pretty fast. And we're watching it, and everybody in the grandstands has gone home because this is going to be a 25 or 30 or 50 lap race on these claimers and stuff like that. But went over to where the flag stand was, kind of where the pit was, and climbed up the steps, and Sherman Barnett standing there watching because I guess he'd help somebody out with some money building one of these cars and stuff like that. And I mean, these cars, for no more protection than they have, are going pretty fast. And they go around and around and around. And this may be a race that there's no yellows. You know, you wreck, we just leave you in the middle of the race and let everybody else race around you. And I'm standing there, you know, watching this race. I don't even remember who I was watching for. Somebody I was probably helping or something like that. And Sherman looks over at me. He goes, man, he says, you remember when we had cars like that? And I said, when him and Christy first started, when they very first had their very first junk cars, I said, yeah. He goes, man, he says, that's when it was really fun.
Yeah, that's true.
And I thought, and then it wasn't very long after that, they had a massive crash on the straightaway that I thought probably would have hurt some people. And it was a bad enough crash that they finally decided, hey, you know what? That's the end of the race.
Damn.
We're not racing the rest of this race. And I remember after the race was over, there was a guy that I kind of knew a little bit, and I was getting ready to go home, and his car's still sitting on the straightaway, you know, and the wrecker is unable to pull it. And the guy comes over, he says, you wouldn't happen to have a hacksaw, would you? And I said, well, a hacksaw? I said, we might have one. I don't know. Why? I need a hacksaw. I said, okay. So we went over and looked and got a hacksaw, and the reason he needed a hacksaw was because the drive shaft was stuffed in the back of the transmission and in the rear end so hard that the wheels wouldn't turn, and he was going to saw the drive shaft in half, and finally did.
Dang.
To get the car to move. I mean, the dog leg, you know, the front wheels were set back where your feet go. It looked, how somebody didn't get hurt in that wreck, I don't know.
Damn.
And so they kind of did away with that class going that fast with no protection in those cars.
Yeah, when we first started racing pure stocks, it said I could just have a passenger car seatbelt. I was like, you shitting me? We're still going like 70.
Well, the pure stock rules still don't say you have to have a cage.
You're shitting me.
No, all you got to have is a roll bar with 2 kickers.
And I was thinking, a freaking regular, you might as well have a lap belt and a freaking Dale Earnhardt old open face helmet and smoking a cigarette while you're going around. I'm like, oh my God, are you guys serious? You guys are going to get somebody hurt. 75, 80 hurts real bad when you're hit, or probably 70.
Well, you know,
still hurts when you hit the wall.
I remember when they first of all, we didn't use racing chairs.
Racing chairs?
You know, a seat. We didn't have a seat. We didn't have a racing chair. We used a bucket seat out of a Camaro or something like that, and a seat belt.
Yeah.
Kind of Richard Petty style, you know?
Yeah.
And then the first seats were actually made out of fiberglass. They weren't even aluminum.
Yeah. All right.
No.
Do you want to talk about any of your wins? Because I know it's hard to do. No, fuck no.
No. Talk about Jennifer.
Yeah, let's go into when you met Jennifer.
Best thing that ever happened to me in my whole life.
Yeah, when did you meet her? What year?
Oh, let's
Knock
see.
it off. You have the best memory of any.
Jesus
I can't
Christ,
remember.
I'm
What's your
really
name
sure.
again?
Well, I better not tell you the whole thing.
I want to hear the whole thing, not the X-rated part, just the R and PG-13 one. Strongly parental guidance advised. What'd she do to you?
No, I mean the first time.
Did she make moves on you?
No. First time Jennifer and I ever went and did anything together, we went to Saturday night. We went to El Paso Speedway Park.
Whoa. You just fast forward through a lot of shit. When did you make eye contact with this woman?
Not long before that.
No, tell me what happened. I want to see. I want to hear.
Oh,
it.
I don't remember.
You've never
when
even told me this bullshit. You have the best memory ever.
I think
you rattle off
well,
part
you know,
numbers.
I knew her dad. Her dad worked at Casa Ford.
You told me that. Okay,
And I
moving
don't
on.
I don't know if she was working at the time or not, because, you know, she worked at about half the dealerships in town.
Mm-hmm.
And she just moved here, I think, from California. And
Which part of California, northern or southern?
Bakersfield, you know, that
That's
area.
okay. That's kind of middle. Like middle of the political spectrum.
Yeah, some other town I never heard of probably was where they lived. I don't remember. I don't know that much about it.
I'm sorry
Anyway,
for fucking that up.
her dad worked at Casa Ford and brought me some business at my transmission center, and she was with him one day, and just moved to town. I don't think she knew anybody at the time. That was the first time I met her, and I thought she was kind of cute. And unfortunately, I was going with somebody else at the time.
Were you ever married before, Jennifer?
Nope.
Okay.
Close about 4 times,
Yeah.
you know, and thank God. Thank God I waited till I picked the right one. It only took me till I was 47 years old.
Nice.
And, of course, we've been married 26 years now.
Nice.
And she's just the greatest person. You know, the thing that I found about Jennifer, not only was she beautiful to look at, but she knew the difference between right and wrong. She knew the difference between being honest and dishonest.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you don't find that in any people. You know, there's people that you know, there's a fine line between right and wrong. And then there's people that they know there's a fine line between right and wrong, but they have this great big gray area.
Yeah,
in the
they
middle.
live in the gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not like that.
Yeah.
She knows the difference. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, and she's like I am. She'll let stuff eat on her for a while before she comes out and tells you what it is. It's eating on her.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. She's considerably younger than I am.
How much younger? Dirty old savage.
Let's see. She was born in 1963, and I was born in 1949. So you figure it out. 12, 13 years.
Yeah, right around there.
Yeah, right. And you know, I didn't know. You know, I remember in I guess it was about 1984. I was building a car to go race against my friend Jimmy, and he'd been working on his car, and I've been working on my car, and I had an opportunity to buy a street stock from a guy that had a blown motor and needed some serious help financially. And I called Jimmy and told him, hey, I said, you know, am I coming down there to drink beer tonight, or you're coming out here, or maybe, you know, no, I got to go to the house. Why is that? Well, Bobby's selling his car tonight. I said, whoa, I didn't know Bobby's car was for sale. Yeah. I said, how much? Oh, dirt cheap. You know, the motor's messed up in it. Had all brand new pieces, but there was something wrong with it. And I said, how much? And
Wait, is this looping back to Jennifer? Or where the fuck are we going?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm buying this car for Jennifer.
Yeah.
And how much? And he told me, and I said, well, and it includes the trailer. I said, well, is it sold? Well, the guy's going to come look at it tonight. I said, well, is it sold, or is it the first guy that gets there with the money? Well, it's the first guy that gets there with the money. I said, hang on just a second. I'm on my way to the bank. I'll meet you at your shop in about 30 minutes. So I went down to the bank and went to the drive-in window, and I said, hey, how much money can I get at the drive-in window before I have to go inside? They looked up my balance on my account and said, you can get that. I said, whoa, I don't need that much. So I went and I bought that car and started putting it together just for her to have something to drive around the track. I think I'd let her run one enduro race before then in Las Cruces, which was just clunker cars, 200 laps, and if you're slow enough, you only made 150. Well, that's fine.
So you bought this car for Jennifer?
Yeah, I bought
And you
that.
barely knew her?
No.
You were going out by then.
Yeah, no, we were married at the time.
Ah, shit. You fast forward through a lot of shit
All right.
right there.
Anyway,
You got the story all fucked up.
Anyway, I didn't realize that she wanted to drive that car, and that's when I quit driving the car, was when she started driving. You know, I never did finish that car. I say I finished it, but I still got that car.
How many did you get? I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but did you win Some races, or how many races did
Only
you
a
win?
couple of races. It's very hard to win.
That's why you said
Yeah,
that
that's
to
why I
me.
know it's so hard to win.
I got you.
Because every time you think you got it once, something goes wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Yeah.
And the problem with it is I'm one of those people that I run by the rules. And when I go see somebody else's car that I know is totally not within the rules, I just figure, well, that's up to the track's integrity
Right.
to tell that person that car doesn't conform to the rules. But we don't have any track integrity in this part of it. We have what I used to call Pancho Villa racing, and now I'm not sure it's not what I would call Joe Biden racing.
All right.
We just tell a lie about everything and make people believe it. But that's okay, because I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever going to. I've been around circle track racing for 40 some years, and nothing's ever changed. Why is it going to change now?
Yeah, but it's the military, right? For me, it's just.
You're only as good as your word.
Yeah, but military style, like, you're only as good as your weakest link. That's why I don't have a lot of links around me. I have a really good link. When Don showed up and started showing me stuff at Jimmy Ray's shop, I was real quick to. You already told me that guy's a badass. So there's a few people. Jimmy Ray, of course I'm going to listen to him. Devin Smith, Martin Robinson. And if Sherman ever talked to me, I'd listen to him. There's some badasses that you got to listen. Just shut up and listen. But there's other people that but you listen, you do your best, and when this track fucks you over so hard that you're tired of racing here, you better have your freaking happy wheels on and ready to go. You better do good in business, for one. So we got to build some more pools, Clearwater pools. Clearwater Pools. That's the real sponsor of this. We need to build some pools, make enough money so that you and I can go on the road and go to wherever, somewhere else. Except for 15 minutes up the road, we have a world-class raceway right here. So it's very hard for me to complain about getting in my freaking leaving this shop and going 15 minutes up the road, drinking all night until we have to get kicked to the truck stop, having a good time. But when it does get to that point, you better be good enough to show what you're made of everywhere else where they've been running that track the whole time. That's what I want to do. That's why I'm moving out of the trucks, because trucks don't run anywhere else. X-Mods never look like fun to me, and I'm not having the car is awesome, but I'm honestly not having a great time working on my shit every week. But that's the punishment that you get when you're not good. You have to pay your dues, and you're going to be at the back of the pack with a bunch of assholes that aren't good. And then you're going to work on it enough times and listen to the right people. You're going to get top 5, and they don't wreck. Top 10 kind of don't wreck. But if you spin out on your own, which I did, and go to the back and wreck, well, that's your fault, and I accept that as my punishment for what I did. But get good enough to where you can go race on a national level, even if it's a few races, a mini series, something. I don't know where my racing career ends, but starting at 50, it doesn't end at NASCAR. I understand that, but I'm damn thankful for as many wins as we've gotten. We're probably not going to get 250 together like some people at the track that are badasses, or 1,000 like other people that are badasses, but man, the 10 or 20 that we've gotten have been incredible, and I appreciate you.
Well, let me tell you, I've told you before that you're racing to win, number one. But number two, the most important thing is to be satisfied at the end of the night that you did the best you could with the equipment that you had. That's and the right. talent that you have.
That's right.
And if you've done the best, you've made your preparation. And that's the thing. A long time ago, what I noticed, that circle track racing has changed a lot. Drag racing used to be total preparation to go down the drag strip for 7 seconds.
Yep.
And you'd work all week long for 5, 6, 7 passes at 7 seconds apiece. Dirt track racers, they didn't spend any preparation time at all. They just got it good enough to get going. They weren't ready even on the first night of the season. You have to be ready on race day.
Yeah.
That's always been my slogan. You have to be ready on race day. If you're not ready the first night of racing when the season begins, you're not going to be ready the second night because you're still trying to get ready for the first night, and you've already encumbered some things that need to be done between the first week and the second week where things went wrong for you, and you're behind the 8 ball. You never get caught back up.
Yeah, you taught me that.
So, what you see now in dirt track racing is you see drag racers that have got converted. I remember when drag racers first got converted to dirt car racing, they were the guys who were more prepared than the guys who just went out there and built them a car and said, well, hey, I'm ready. And the drive shaft had fallen out, or the wheel had come off, or the lug nuts were broke, or, something else would be wrong. So it's attention to detail. You've got to have the machinery. You've got to have good quality parts. You have to have it ready to go race. You have to be in the right mindset, which I've told you before, starts out with being rested on race day. You don't want to be trying to get every last minute detail done, because as anxiety goes up, your frustration level goes up and your driving ability goes down.
Yeah.
There's an inverse proportion to that. There's also an inverse proportion between spending money and having fun.
Yeah.
There's a curve. You go up, you start spending money, it's going like this. You finally peak out at the very top. What you don't want to do is get to the downside of the peak where all of a sudden you're spending money and you're not having fun.
Right.
When you get to that point, your dirt car racing career is over.
Yeah. Well, people tell me, yeah, we're just out here to have fun. I'm like, all right, well, I know, just say that to me, and I know where you're going to finish. Say we're out here to have fun, and I know where you're going to finish. Did you work 60 or 80 hours on your shit? Because I did. I'm ready to go. I'm polishing my truck every week to just keep my nervous energy to a minimum. I'm polishing things because I'm so nervous about, did I do enough during this week? But I've always done enough during the week. I've always done more than everybody else out there. Everybody else, like driver in my class, I know and it's no diss against them. They're all working full-time jobs. I've told my competitors, my advantage right now is we did really well this winter. And now I get to just work on my shit and race you. And how are you going to keep up with me when I'm working 60 or 80 hours a week on my shit? Now, if you have a crew of 2 or 3, okay, yeah, you're probably going to, and 40 years experience, you're probably going to beat me a lot. I get that. But everybody else, I don't want to hear much about what you got to say about you're doing this and you're doing that. Yeah, I'm outworking you. I never want to be outworked, ever. Not in my career, not at the track. I want to work harder than everybody else, and I know I have. So when I show up to the track and I'm polishing my car and everybody's like, what the shit is he doing? His thing's all polished and he's spending $10 a little spray can on spray. Well, that's because that's what I got left to do that week. I'm going to check tire pressures and I'm going to spray the car so that the fans get to look at something that doesn't look like a ratty pile of shit that's got spray paint on it. That's just the way I roll. Everybody else that wants to roll like that, maybe that's all you can afford. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. That's all you can afford, and you are out there just to be a race car driver and have a good time, and that's great. But it's not my fault that I worked hard, and especially I worked hard every week and got here and got to race up front. That's not my deal. It's hard for me to digest when people tell me this, that, and
the most important factor in it is it has to be fun.
Yeah.
When the fun's gone, that's when it's time to go on and move on to something else.
Also, I spent 20 years raising our kids, and they're freaking... It was not fun watching 2 kids that came from me that were not competitive. And I freaking pushed my daughter's volleyball coach out of the way and like, all right, you guys come back here. Girls volleyball, 6th grade. Can you guys scream this shit out? Let's shake it out, whatever. We have to win. We have to be competitive. Just pushed him right out of the way. And they got close, 11-13 or whatever they played to. But they had been getting their ass beat like 3-13. And I was like, man, I just can't handle this anymore. Our kids, maybe when our son played a doubles tennis match, he might have won some matches. But other than that, solo, I don't know if he ever won a match. Our daughter never won a volleyball match. And so for me, after being competitive as a kid and then losing for 20 years, and I know it's not my losses, but still, it's like, man, we freaking lost for 18 years straight. By the time I got here, I'm like, what do we need to do to win? And so I knew I didn't have the capability of keeping the car together, which you do. I know I don't know how to make it. As soon as you said, I'm not that good at this, okay, let me find somebody that is that good at this. And so I'm just thankful that you showed up and that we've had, maybe we're going to get 15 or 20 wins our whole career, and that's been a badass ride. And I'm just damn thankful that you showed up and floated down from the sky. And when I call you, you answer. And I don't say much. I'm probably drinking a beer and just listening to your stories. And I love listening to your stories. You got some cool stories. This 2 hours of freaking a little podcast. Hopefully it sheds a light on who you are and people get a real grip on when you're walking through, man. It's painful to watch. Just all of us. It's painful for all of us to watch, but you're freaking trucking along and you've been a freaking legend your whole life. And I appreciate you, man. So thanks for everything that you've done. Thanks for what you've done for our country. Thanks for what you've done for my family. Thanks for who you are.
We're waiting for a resurgence.
Yeah. That? Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.